Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another enlightening live streaming session with immigrationquestion.com. In today's edition, we will be covering the subject H1B Hope for Applicants and Employers. All you need to know about the second lottery. We are thrilled to have you join us as we explore the intricacies of H1B second lottery and what it means for both applicants and employers. My name is Maliha and I'll be your host for today's session. We are excited to discuss a very timely and important topic. Many of you know that the initial H1B lottery was held this year earlier. The good news is, due to unmet H1B cap numbers, there's another chance of both applicants and employers. Joining us as a special guest speaker is a renowned immigration attorney with over 11 years of experience in handling H1B and green card applications. She's known for her meticulous preparations and thorough review process. As an attorney, her dedication to her clients' needs and her deep understanding of immigration law makes her a top choice for anyone navigating the US immigration system. She has successfully guided numerous clients through complex applicants, earning high praise for her diligent and client focused approach. Lovely to present you on the program, Attorney Vanita Patil.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today, ma'am. Before we get started, a few housekeeping notes. Please use the chat box feature for any social media platform you're joining from to submit your questions. We'll address them during our Q&A session later in the webinar. Now let's dive right in. To start, can you please provide a brief overview of H1B visa program?
H-1B visa is a non-immigrant visa that allows you to employ foreign workers in a specialty occupation. When I say specialty occupation, that's some kind of occupation which requires at least a bachelor's degree or a foreign equivalent to do the job. It is commonly used by tech companies, medical professionals, and other industries of labor.
Thank you so much for the valuable insight, Attorney Vanita. As announced on July 30th by the USCIS that there will be a second H1B selection process for the FY 2025 gap, can you please take us through the individuals who are eligible for the second lottery and the reason for this additional selection round?
Okay, so every year USCIS conducts the initial lottery where they pick, there is a set aside. Total, there is 85,000 numbers. In that, 20,000 visas are set aside for US masters. 65,000 is for individuals in the regular bachelor's degree category. What happens every year is during the initial March lottery, USCIS picks up a little over 85,000 selections, but many candidates or the companies, they do not actually file the actual petition. So then there will be some additional numbers that are left. So that's why they conduct the second lottery to come up to their total number of 85,000, which is 65 for the regular cap and 20,000 for the master's cap. This it did have enough selection, but lot of people did not end up filing the petition, so they did not meet their the quota. So they conducted a second lottery August 1st. However, they announced that they were not going to do any master's candidates because they had received the enough required number of petitions for the master's category. However, the candidates who did not get selected in the first lottery can still be selected under the regular bachelor's category. So USCIS conducts the master's lottery first. Then the applications that are not selected are thrown into the regular pool where they have like two bites at the apple. So it doesn't mean they're going to select only the candidates with bachelor's degree. They can select the candidates with master's degree, but the category under which they are selected is going to be that's why USCIS has been doing this for many years when they don't meet the initial number, then they do a second lottery. And there was a year when they did the third lottery too. That was almost towards December. Hopefully that doesn't happen this year. Whoever is selected in the second lottery, if they end up filing, then there will not be lotteries.
Wow, that's very interesting and enlightening. So, but still on the second lottery, where registration is selected in the second lottery, what are the next steps an applicant is expected to take next?
As you might know, this year the selections are little different. Have a unique number. So if they had more than one company registered, they can choose whichever company to file, or even both the companies can file. So in terms of what next steps, the process remains the same. Usually, I tell my clients you should file the petition as soon as possible. There are multiple things that can go wrong, right? The cases can be rejected, or if there is any kind of issues, if you file initially in the beginning, you have like 90 days to correct it. The package, sometimes they don't return to the petitioners or the attorney for almost like 2 months or so. So if you are like one of the early filers, even if it is rejected, you can go back and file again. Mine is that when the for the applicants especially is to narrow down the petitioner who they want to go with, or if they are having more than one company file, they should be definitely keeping that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is might be eligible for cap gap. These are the students who are on F1 OPT. So some of them will have the OPT expire sometimes. If it is before October 1st, say they might be expiring sometime in August, and if you file before that date, they will be eligible for cap gap, which will give them the work authorization until October 1st. So it's very important to keep an eye on their work authorization expiration dates.
Wow, that's so much to get enlightened. Thank you so much. In all of these, like you said, the application can go wrong. Do you think the role of an immigration attorney will play an important role in this entire process?
When it comes to immigration, I always like to think of it as a collaboration between the attorney and the employer. No matter how diligent we are, there are so many things. So I almost always tell the clients, be ready with your package even by the time we actually register the candidate for the lottery. In fact, many of my longtime clients, I prepare the lottery registration like I am actually preparing the petition. That way, they send me all the documents. I do the initial review, and sometimes they'll have bad cases. Even if they're selected, they might not get approved. So I kind of go through all the housekeeping things, review their education, the job description, which is extremely important. So those things you have to do that early on. That way, if something you can fix things. And sometimes if you wait till the last minute and you file the labor condition application with the Department of Labor, they normally come up with they certified those applications within 7 days, but when the load is high, they can take longer. And if that is beyond your deadline, then you can't file the H1B. Your employee will be out of luck.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Attorney Vanita, for giving us the advice. Mr. Ahmed says it is indeed a collaboration. I mean, if you'd like to give out your contact details, the audience would like to know how to contact you.
Sure. I'm a solo practitioner. I have three paralegals. I'm based out of South Windsor, Connecticut. Contact information, my phone number is 860-656-6040. Our law firm is Patil Law Group.
Thank you so much for this, Attorney Patil. Moving on to our next question. What are the most critical aspects employers should consider when preparing for the second lottery?
As I mentioned earlier, job description for H1B is not all jobs qualify for H1B. So it's very important to diligently, come up with the proper job description that requires some kind of, most of the times the degree should be related to the role. If not, sometimes we can use the experience, get that evaluated to qualify your employee to the role. Second, if you are employing any kind of foreign students, just be mindful of their OPT. If that after October, the cap gap does not actually extend beyond October 1st. So if you find it anytime, April or even after April, the cap gap would give them work authorization until October 1st. But if the OPT expires on that day and their H1B is still pending, they won't be. These are the cases that you want to probably think about premium processing, right? Like if you premium process by October, you'll have an approval, and then they can, continue to work without discontinuing their current role. That is one thing that I tell all my clients to keep in mind when you're filing, especially for the second. Sometimes some clients go through that. Second, be careful with site inspection, right? When you're filing, make sure that you are compliant with all the H1B regulations, like keeping up with your Department of Labor and the public access files. Make sure that all the documentation is maintained well. Also, train your HR professional or whoever is going to be, signing the petition, to know about each case and what to do when, immigration comes knocking. So those things are few things to keep in mind.
Thank you so much for taking the time to provide such a thorough breakdown. For the audience, if you're just joining us, this is immigrationquestion.com live webinar session. Immigrationquestion.com is a revolutionary platform that connects immigrants and users with qualified immigration attorneys. You can ask your questions for free and you'll be connected to a verified attorney registered on the platform. We call it the meeting ground for both attorney and immigrants. For immigration attorneys, this is your opportunity to scale your practice to the next level. Register today as an attorney and get free client leads upon sign up. Kindly keep up all your live questions coming in. Our special guest will be addressing it all shortly. So, ma'am, no doubt that the H1B process can be challenging, of course. What are some common challenges applicants might face from your years of experience, and how best can they overcome them?
Lately, I can tell you the trend that I am seeing with our initial filing. We are seeing a lot of approvals coming in. I'm seeing some RFEs, especially for the F1 students. The RFEs are particularly asking about their how they are maintaining their status, whether they were full-time students, part-time students. If anybody took any online classes, they're asking even for like list of their addresses, just to make sure the individuals, like the employees or the students, were attending the live classes. It's always, it's a trend, and it was kind of little quiet for some years. And I actually even saw RFE this morning where they were asking the same question. So that is one thing that I would emphasize on all the employers and the students to very meticulously keep records of everything. Literally, think of this as your horoscope, right? The moment you come to the US, you want to make sure that you document every single thing, because immigration does. So where did you work, which address you stayed from, when to when. And sometimes I see people, they tend to give the address of their relatives, which I understand, right? This is their permanent address because they are students, they are moving around. I've seen RFs questioning that too. Okay, your school is here, why was this your address, right? Okay, Connecticut or California, but your school was in Arizona. So you should be able to explain those things. There are times where I have actually submitted sworn in affidavits stating that, okay, I move around, and sometimes I have heard stories that the documents go back or they are returned if I'm not at home. That's why I did not want to do authorization. Hence, I gave this, my uncle's address, and that's where it went. And again, one more time, employers, be very careful with your job description. Make sure the job description is detailed, not very generic. Don't say he's in any kind of administrative duties, liaison type of roles, those just don't help. Categories, computer systems analyst used to be a good category before. I'm seeing RFEs on that lately because they kind of went down with the job zone. So you have to very carefully draft your job description, and also obviously your attorneys will go through the categories and make sure they pick a category that is relevant, and also is not being RFA'd by the government.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise, Attorney Vanita. So now we can open the floor
Okay,
for the questions.
sure.
Before that, I have a couple of questions personally, right? So moving forward, are there any recent changes or trends in the H1B process that applicants and employees should be aware of?
Nothing imminent at the time. We have heard that the registration fee might go up next year. They were trying to do something with the specialty occupation. Nothing concrete, nothing imminent. So those are things to watch out for. One other thing, if I can add, there are obviously people who got selected in the second lottery. There might be people who did not get selected at all. So there are few other options. Some people might qualify for EL1, if you know what EL1 is. If you're working for a U.S. corporation and they have a branch office in some other country, you could be working there for a year and they can transfer you to the US as an intra-company transferee. And if you have some kind of special skills or little extraordinary, ability in terms of publication, you have been, highly compensated, you're working for like a, distinguished organization, you might qualify for a O1. Then obviously, if you're a citizen of Canada or Mexico, there is something called TN visa. Some people qualify for that. Then obviously, for people who are here did not get selected, they can always continue to, maintain their F1 status by enrolling to, a different degree program, preferably a higher degree than what they already obtained.
Thank you so much for the valuable insights. They were truly valuable. So, moving on to our next question. What alternative visa options can employers consider if their candidates are not selected in the second lottery?
Like I mentioned, all those visa categories are available, but obviously it depends on, some of them depends on the employer, whether they have operations in, other countries, whether they can transfer their employees to a different country and intra-company transfer, or if anybody is special, has some kind of extraordinary ability in terms of skills, awards, publications, they might qualify for O1. And if they are, citizens of Canada or Mexico, they might be eligible for TN visa as well.
Thank you so much for your valuable insight, Attorney Vanita. Moving on to the questions from the audience. Now we'll open the floor for questions and answers. Please feel free to type your questions into the chat box and we'll try to address as many as possible. We have a lot coming in already. So the first question is from Mr. DLS Soccer. I'm in Uganda and I have a certificate in business administration from institution in Uganda. I really want to immigrate to USA. Is it possible? If it is, how?
Yeah. When you say certification, I don't know exactly what it means. So if you actually have a business administration degree, which is either a bachelor's or a master's degree, you might have an option to migrate to the US. However, you will need a sponsor. You have to first look for a job, and the company should be able to, sponsor you uh, to a H-1B visa. Then the company can file, and once the petition is approved, then you can apply for a visa in Uganda and then come into the US to, take that position.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for your for sharing your expertise, Attorney Vanita. Moving on to our next question is from Hannah. What are the key differences between H1B lottery system and H1B cap exempt categories, and how do these differences impact foreign workers seeking employment in United States?
H-1B cap is most of the applicants are subject to H1B cap. Any profit or go through the lottery. There is a list of there are some organizations who are H1B cap exempt, such as some institutions that are higher education, non-profit, some medical hospitals. Those organizations. If you have a job offer from a cap exempt employer, then you don't have to wait for the lottery. They can file H1B anytime during the year, and you can use that petition to come into the US. And once you are in a cap exempt H1B petition, you cannot transfer to a cap subject entity. You can transfer only between, say, if you're working for University A, then you can move to University B, but you won't be able to go and work for Amazon. So that's a restriction there. But if you have a job offer from a cap exempt institution, you can obviously come. They can file the H1B anytime during the year, and you can enter the US to continue with that employment.
Well, that was so much thorough. Thank you so much for your time, for providing such a thorough breakdown. Moving on to our next question from Mr. Alex. How much time do I have to respond or act if I'm selected in the additional round, and what deadlines should I be aware of?
Usually in the selection notice they will say by when the petition needs to be filed, but usually it's 90 days. If something was selected on April 1st, that the deadline was June, April, May, June. And if it is August, it's usually August, September, October, so it's 90 days.
Thank you so much for
Notice
the
will have the date. The notice will have the date.
wow. Thank you so much for the insight. They were truly valuable, Attorney Vanita. Moving on to our next question from Mr. Penanti Kubil. Please share some best practices for filing H1B petitions to improve chances of approval.
First and foremost, look at the find a good candidate, look at their education credentials. Second, make sure the job description. I can't emphasize enough on the job description. I always spend more time with the job description. Some of my clients are great, but some of them, especially the program managers or the project managers or some just managers, right? What they're doing is managing people. Those are not very good job descriptions for H1B. Can you get those approved? Yes, but you have to be very diligent. I go into the depth saying that, okay, he's a manager, but managing all these engineers, know what they do, right? So I would say he is going to be reviewing the architecture created by these engineers or whatever they do. So I emphasize a lot on the job description. Then as an attorney, I also make sure that I pick the right type of the codes which don't get RFE easily, but that again is based on the job description that I get from my clients. Rest everything, I think, if you have an attorney, they will work through it, but job description is something that only you can do. So it's a good idea to actually have all the roles description. Most of the times we don't have too many new roles, so some of my clients have like list of occupations or the jobs that they hire people. Then they have the requirement, okay, for this role I need somebody with a bachelor's degree and 2 years of experience, or master's degree, no experience. So it's extremely important to have those kind of job descriptions handy for your H1B employees.
Thank you so much for the thorough expertise, Ms. Vanita Patel. Moving on to our next question. What advice do you have for international students seeking H1B?
Okay. um, I would say find an employer as soon as you get your OPT. First and foremost, if you are an international student, be on top of your immigration studies. Go to all the meetings that the DSO has at your school. Second, apply for the OPT the first day you are eligible to apply, and make sure that the document is thorough, questions properly, provide as much evidence as possible. The moment you get your OPT, you should have a job lined up, because you cannot have you can have only certain days of unemployment. I think the initial OPT you can have 90 days and another 60 days in STEM extension. And also find an employer who will register you for the H-1B lottery the first time you are eligible, right? Once you have your work authorization. So if you are a STEM graduate, you will probably get three chances, but this is lottery we are talking about. So you want to make sure that your employer registers you, then you have another chance and maybe one more chance. So it's important to make sure that you are with the employer who is going to sponsor you as soon as you are eligible.
Thank you so much for the thorough explanation, Attorney Vanita. Moving on to our next question from Mr. D. Sorry, it's Miss D. What are the chances of getting an H-1B transfer approved from the lottery?
Um, I think the question needs a little bit more detail. So you can get your H-1B transferred only after it is approved. B has been selected by somebody, and you just cannot move that around. That company needs to file for you. So you cannot transfer your H-1B before it is filed and approved.
Okay, thank you so much, Attorney Patil. Moving on to our next question. It's again from Mr. DLS Soccer, who had asked this question earlier. How much time can H-1B visa process take to proceed?
How much time can an H-1B visa process take to be processed? It depends. If you are in rush, you can premium process, which is an additional cost of $2,800. Other approvals for all the cases that I filed towards the end of April and May. So I want to say 3 to 4 months. But if you are in rush, and anyways, if it's a cap case, you won't be able to enter the country until October 1st, or maybe you can come in 10 days before October 1st, but not too soon. But if there is a job that you need to start on October 1st, you can always premium process. The regular processing time is anywhere between 3 to 4 months.
That's quite insightful. Thank you so much for the thorough breakdown, Attorney Vanita Patel. Moving on to our next question from Ms. Henry Tucker. Is it available for employers to file for premium processing if candidate is still selected in the second lottery?
Yes. Premium processing is available for all kinds of H-1B petitions, whether it's the first lottery, second lottery, transfer, and all kinds of premium processed.
Thank you so much again for providing us such a thorough breakdown, Attorney Patil. Moving on to our next question from Mr. Lewis. Why is my fate if I'm not selected in either of the first or second lottery?
What is my fate if I'm not selected in either the first or the second lottery? You can just hope that all the candidates selected in the second lottery don't actually file. I mean, the employers don't file. That way, there might be more numbers that are left, and the USCIS might conduct another lottery, just like any other lottery. If you did not get selected this year, you'll have to try next year. If not, you want to see if you qualify for any of the other options that we spoke about earlier. If you have some kind of extraordinary ability, you can obviously find employment and try doing a O1. Or if you're working and they have a branch in the US, maybe you can be transferred on a L1 visa. So there are other options, but if you're not selected in the second lottery, as I said, all you can do is just hope that there is one more lottery. That can happen only if all the selected candidates in the second lottery actually don't end up filing all the petitions.
Beautiful explanation. Really, really pleased to hear this. Thank you so much for the thorough breakdown, Attorney Patil. Moving on to our next question from Angelo Duaz. I was not selected in the first lottery. Do I need to re register for the second lottery?
You cannot register for the second lottery. So everybody registers one time before April 1st, whatever during the registration period. So immigration selects the required number of candidates, and if they are not filing the petition, that's when the second lottery is conducted. It's from the same pool that they had who were selected. They are not back in the pool, in the lottery pool, but the ones that were not selected, they would be in the pool, and then they conduct the second lottery. But you cannot register separately for the second lottery.
Wow, that's quite interesting. Thank you so much for your insights. They were truly valuable. Before we could wrap this up, one last note from our for our guest. What are the tips you can offer for applicants and employers in their registration process to ensure a successful outcome?
Make sure you start the process at the um, sometime in December, maybe early or even mid-December. Gather all the documents, come up with a list of candidates that you want to file. Gather their passport, education credentials, job description. Send it to your attorneys. They can review everything and make sure that the candidate qualifies for the position that you offer. And if everything is good, they will be way in on track. And when the time comes to register, they can register and everything can go as planned. No errors, typographical errors, they can be detrimental. You don't want to make a mistake in their date of birth, passport number, name. So it's important that you provide all the documents to your attorneys early in the process. That way, you and your attorneys have sufficient time to review all the documents and be ready when the time comes to register.
Wow, thank you so much again for the thorough explanation, Attorney Vanita. So for the audience, we are closing the floor now. If you have anyone from the audience who would still like to ask questions, you can reach out to us on immigrationquestions.com. If at all you'd like to call us, you can even call us. Our number is 516-703-3483. I repeat, it's 516-703-3483. Thank you so much, Attorney Vanita, for sharing your expertise with us
Thank
today. It was
you.
such Thank you so much. So glad to have you here. It was such a delight having you join us today. We do not take your presence despite your tight schedule for granted. And also, thank you for the audience for joining us. Attorney Vanita, if you'd like to give out your contact details to the
Sure.
audience who joined a little later.
Thank you so much, and it was a pleasure doing this with you. I am Attorney Vanita Patil, based out of South Windsor, Connecticut. My law firm is called Patil Law Group, and our phone number is 860-656-6040. Thanks once again.
Thank you so much, Attorney Patil, for joining us today. Do not miss out on everything Immigration Question has to offer. Visit www.immigrationquestion.com to sign up today and get your immigration questions answered. If you are an immigration attorney looking to grow your practice at no cost, register on immigrationquestion.com and receive up to 10 free client leads upon sign up. Please stay tuned until next Friday